This video is about research and evaluation strategies. Designers must ensure that the products which are developed fulfill a need or want from the consumer. If a product is produced which does not fulfill the needs or wants of the consumer, the product will fail. And with 9 out of 10 of products failing, it's vitally important that the design team knows who their target market is and what they want. Products take many years to develop, so the design team need to try to predict what the consumer will want in the next 2 to 5 years and beyond. They do this by a process called market research. The more effective the market research, the more chance that the product will be a success. There are many ways to understand what the public want from their products, and this video will discuss these. You're expected to be able to name the research methods, understand why they're used, and also understand and explain the steps taken when carrying out different strategies. The better a strategy is carried out, the better the chance of success for the product. The first strategy we're going to look at in more detail is questionnaires. We carry out questionnaires when we want to gather the opinions of a wide range of people, from a wide range of backgrounds. So for example, a range of genders, ages, wealth, jobs, and so on. You might have seen these, or you might have even been taking part in a questionnaire with someone standing with a clipboard who wants to ask you a few questions about things. Sometimes we want to be more specific with who we ask. We'd call these focus groups, where we'd go to the focus group with a questionnaire and ask them targeted questions. So for example, one example of a focus group might be young mothers. We might ask them specific things, what they're looking for from products to do with their newborn baby, for example. In terms of how to do this, we create the questions that you're needing responses to, e.g. which colour scheme is best, which functions do you want the product to do. Second, we ask a wide range of people. 3, analyse what they're telling you. Can you see a need or want from the answers? Can you perhaps even predict a trend? What will they actually want in 2 to 5 years' time? And the last part of questionnaires is actually acting on the data. This is to ensure that the product which is being developed meets their needs. As this is done right at the start of the design process, the answers to these and the research gathered generally forms a product design specification, which is a list of things that the design needs to do to be considered a good design. The second method which we're going to discuss is user trips. User trips are when a designer will hand a product to a user and ask them a series of questions in order to understand key design issues. For example, they might hand them a new hairdryer and ask them if the cable's long enough, or if it gets hot enough, or if the handle is easy to hold and the buttons to operate. They use it once, they answer the questions, and then we take our feedback from there. We might carry out several different user trips with several different people to gain a range of results, but it is just used once. The questions are produced beforehand, so we target exactly what it is we're wanting to actually find out, and then they carry out the user test. Once again, once you have your findings, the findings are acted on. What have we learned from actually carrying out the test? Is there anything that we can see, commonality in the answers, for example, which makes us more aware of where we should be going next with our product development? The third method is user trials. It's similar to a user test in that a product is handed to a user to use. They also answer questions about the product itself. But in a user trial, the product is used for a much longer period of time. Could be weeks or months. And we're actually looking to see whether or not the user themselves is aware of any drop in performance in the product. So for example, does the vacuum cleaner performance function just as well as it did on day 1 as it does on day 60? So we identify specific things that we're wanting to evaluate, and we give the user the product to use for an extended period of time, and we ask them questions throughout this process. Conclusions are drawn, and these may be used to update the design specification. The fourth method to discuss is comparisons. Comparisons are a common method for checking to see how well a product matches up to the nearest competitor. Does the product perform better than yours? Where will the competitor be in 2 to 5 years' time? If we can get this right, then our product will outperform the competitors and succeed. So what we do is we identify the competitor's product themselves, we get our hands on that product, and we forensically take it apart. What can we learn from the actual competitor's product itself? So for example, is there any new technology in there which perhaps we can learn from and perhaps adapt to our own needs? Have they made any clever design decisions which you could actually use in your own product? Again, this is all about trying to determine where our product is in comparison to our competitors. The competitors may well be vying for the same sales, so it's highly important that we are in front of our competitors going forward. The final research method to discuss is test rigs. Test rigs are commonly used as a quality assurance tool. Lab tests will be conducted to test how impact resistant a phone screen is, for example, or how water resistant it is. They can even perform tests to then simulate how long a battery might last. The reason for this is that they want quality products going out onto the market, or at the very least, they want to be able to understand how long a warranty to put onto a product. So for example, if they're confident that a battery in a phone might last 18 months, then they'll be very confident in terms of giving it a 12-month warranty, because they'll know that it's highly unlikely that the battery will fail within that 12-month period. Another example is a keyboard. A test rig might actually be set up to strike the keys several thousand times, perhaps even hundreds of thousands of times over a short period of time, and then they can start to see when the product starts to fail. How many keystrokes can we get out of our keyboard before the product fails? Again, the design issues to be tested are identified, so for example durability or performance. The test is planned, so we have to actually figure out a test that will be able to be repeatable and used. So for example, how do we ensure that the phone is dropped from the exact same height? Does it matter if it lands on a different face or corner each time? The third part is that we carry out the test. Observations are made. Do we notice anything about the screens when they cracked, for example? Is there a design change that could be made to prevent the screens from cracking? A formal report will be written, and this may be used to update the design specification and certainly shared with members of the design team. So that's a quick run through of the research methods and evaluation methods for higher D&M as well as N5 D&M. So that's a quick run through of research and evaluation methods. Again, the key thing to take away from this is that the design team need to really be able to figure out exactly what the consumer, i.e. the users, want from their products. Because products take such a long time to produce, it's really important that we can then almost predict the future in order to be a success. Okay, thanks for listening.